Welcome to Ukraine Today. My name is Sam Kearley and I'm joined by Mark Sigal and Oksana Chimbivska, both project officers working for an initiative funded by the European Union aimed at reforming the justice system in Ukraine. Mark, Oksana, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Could you start by telling us about your work over the last 18 months?
Well, we started in October of 2013, and our first office was actually on Kostelnaya Street, right off Maidan. So we had a front row seat for everything that's happened over the last 18 months. As you mentioned, the project is funded by the European Union, and it's implemented by a French public interest group called Justice Cooperation International. We work with judges, prosecutors, advocates, and we have an anti-corruption component as well.
Okay, so could you tell us about the declaration?
Basically, the Advocates Declaration is designed to protect human rights in criminal cases. And it's a very clever and innovative initiative which is designed to change the way the legal system works in practice. Basically, the problem in Ukraine is that the justice system, really over hundreds of years, has existed to serve the interests of the state and the interests of the powerful and the elite, and also the functionaries, people within the system. And as a result of that, we see a lot of violations of human rights. We see that advocates have a lot of obstacles that they face when they're doing their work. Advocates are lawyers who are working to defend people in criminal cases. And we see that as a result of that, for example, there's a 99% conviction rate in criminal cases, one of the highest really in the world. And according to public opinion surveys right now, only about 10% of the people in Ukraine actually trust prosecutors and judges. On the other hand, there's been a lot of progress in the past few years, Sam, and we have a new criminal procedure code. The legal framework has changed. We see important principles like the adversarial process, which means that advocates and prosecutors have to sort of compete to see who's correct in the court of law. Principles like independence of the judiciary that are also proclaimed in the legal framework. We see that there's a lot of training of lawyers and legal professionals going on. There's a legal aid system now which is protecting people who can't afford their own lawyers. And there's also a lot of attention paid to international conventions like the European Convention on the Protection of Human Rights, which are applicable in Ukraine. But unfortunately, it's not enough. And there's still a lot of violations in the day-to-day practice and what's happening on the ground each day. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to strengthen the rule of law. And the rule of law means that we have fair laws which are enacted through a democratic process that's open and consultative, and that those laws are implemented on the ground. In other words, people follow them. Their ethics, the laws, they actually are being done on a day-to-day basis in the oblasts, in the towns throughout Ukraine. So our slogan is practice according to law. We want to change practice so it follows the law.
We can say right now that the laws are actually in Ukraine quite good. Even in some countries can say, like, can envy Ukraine that, like, it has such good laws in, here. But the problem is that they are not implemented on practice. Our constitution is great in terms of rights it brings to its citizens. The new criminal procedure code, as Mark said, is excellent. There is equality of arms between prosecutors and advocates. But the problem is that all the parties, prosecutors, judges, are playing the same rules according to which they were playing for over 60 years, and the approach to handling the cases has not changed. And this is the problem, and this is what we want to change. We want to change the approach, how the cases are handled on practice, and for all the parties to follow the law, and very importantly to follow the ethical rules and rules of professional conduct to each of the profession, which are stipulated, which each profession has. So this is really important right now at this stage of the reform.
Oksana, could you tell us how has the declaration been accepted by advocates across the country?
Frankly speaking, I think in the beginning there was quite a question how it may change the situation. Like, we were always, like, we traveled with Mark, I think, almost through all Ukraine and speak with a number of advocates through Ukraine. And the first question, they say, okay, we like the idea, everything is great, but how it may change the practice? And we said, yes, this is the point. We need to change the practice. And firstly, they were a little bit not very willing to see that it may work, but afterwards they said, yes, civil society, the journalists, these are our allies, whom we can fight together and bring practice in accordance to the law. Because if you looked into the text of the declaration, these are the main problems advocates face on practice. This is everything which on practice is not working according to the law, according to the international standards, according to the European Convention. So everything is there in Ukrainian laws, everything is in the convention which Ukraine has ratified, but it's not working on practice. This is the main problem, and this is now we are trying to join together the forces of advocates with civil society and the journalists for them to work together and react when there is a violation, to have on the ground, like in specific, for example, Poltava region, very defined mechanism of cooperation and reaction if there is some kind of violation for the law. Because very often advocates is facing a violation, but it seems, okay, what can I do alone with the system? Can I fight the system, the state system, the machine, like the prosecutors? There are thousands of them. They have forces. They are all together. But what can do one advocate with that? One advocate, of course, cannot fight the system. But there are 35,000 advocates in Ukraine, and you can imagine how many journalists there are, how many activists, civil society organization representatives are. So all of them together, they can unite their forces and react accordingly, even into the cases when there are minor violations of the law. If that would be a common practice, the prosecutors would never violate it, and judges as well.
And finally, just one more question. The declaration was officially launched on the 24th of June last month. What is next? What are the next steps?
We are starting actually concrete steps to do this Saturday. We will conduct 19 all over Ukraine, 19 outreach event with almost covering all regions of Ukraine to conduct concrete and build concrete mechanism of cooperation of journalists, advocates, and civil society activists in order to develop this mechanism to react on the violations in each specific region, in each specific city. So this is the first stage. After that, we will go to the second stage, being prepared, have our allies on the same side. We will go and start this open dialogue, which need to be started with prosecutors and judges, how we can actually follow the law together and follow the ethical standards and professional conduct.
This is the reason that the declaration is in non-juridical language, so that it can be understood by a common person, is because advocates have decided that they need to summarize all of these very complicated legal texts and put them in a format that the people can understand. So really it's a mobilization exercise. The idea is that the advocates should be reaching out to civil society, to media. There should be Facebook page, there should be all kinds of interviews and radio, television. People should be going to the courthouse and asking if they can come in and listen to hearings and see what's going on. It's a mobilization exercise.
And transparency.
Yeah, it's all about, exactly.
Transparency is the key to the success of the reform. Like if every party is transparent and all the citizens see that the system is transparent, then there would be the trust you ask about.
And transparency has to be based on a certain amount of knowledge, because people have to have knowledge to empower them so that they know how to ask the right questions. So by reading a declaration, anybody can say, oh, these are the questions that I should be asking when I go to the court. These are the things that I should be demanding from our court system. And that's the whole idea: transparency, outreach, mobilization, and getting the advocates to work on society. Because if we learned anything from Maidan in the process, it's that when the people pay attention to what's going on, that's when change can come. The system itself resists change. From inside, there's resistance. But from outside, that's where we need to mobilize people, and that's how we're going to protect human rights in Ukraine.
Oksana, Mark, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the chance to speak to you.
You have been watching Ukraine Today, where we have been joined by Mark Segal and Oksana Trimbivska, both working with the European Union to reform the judicial system in Ukraine. Thank you for watching.